I believe you referred to Evan Bouchard as an X factor at some point during training camp. Is this sort of what you're referring to? He's getting used more quite quickly, helping on the PK, good all-around game?
Well, what I meant by that is we needed him to step up and take a bigger role. And there's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. And the X factor was whether he would be able to do it or not. And he's moving the right direction in a hurry, which is a good thing for us. So he's come in, he's took an extra minutes on that PK. His defending has been really strong. His puck movement is still good, so he continues to elevate his game, and his minutes go accordingly.
So, you said he's doing it in a hurry. We're only 5 games in, and we're already seeing that. What about him has allowed him to adjust that quickly, do you think?
Well, I think his maturity, being around, it's not like he's a rookie anymore. He's been around the league. He understands how to prepare. He understands how to practice. He understands what's wanted or what's needed from him to be successful with our team. So it's maturity of just becoming a good NHL player has given him the confidence and the wherewithal to jump in and get the job done.
And penalty killing, he seems to be doing pretty well there. Mm-hmm. A lot of players, when they're drafted in the first round, it's because they're offensive players, and he certainly has that ability. Mm-hmm. What have you seen with his growth as a penalty killer here?
Well, he's a smart player, so he reads situations well. He's picked up our structure very well. He's willing to block shots, willing to sacrifice to get the job done. So it goes along with the rest of his defending game. His defending game is, that's where he knew he had to put some focus on to become a good NHL player. Everybody knows he can move the puck and shoot the puck a ton, but to become an everyday, reliable NHL player, you have to be able to defend. And he's come in and worked on that part of his game, both on the ice and off the ice. He's watched a lot of tape with Jimmy, and he's just becoming a real good player.
Dave, over here, Darnell was sort of the same way. He was an offensive defenseman when he got to the NHL, and then he tried to rush the puck and do all those things that offensive defensemen do in junior. And I guess he realized that there's a lot of the game played in my end of the ice. Mm-hmm. Is that what offensive defensemen, you've been around a long, is that the first thing they have to realize, that it was more work in your own end than maybe in the other end?
You know what, Jim? That goes for a lot of players, because players come out of junior or college, wherever they come, there's a lot of players that are really good offensive players that they get to the best league in the world and they got to become two-way players. Or some of them, I know a lot of players that were forwards and D that were great junior scorers and ended up being good checkers in the NHL. That's the way it is. So to be a top defenseman, like I look at the guys that have come through, we have Duncan Keith here, we have, you look at Doughty, all those guys were high-end offensive players in junior, but it turned into excellent two-way players. And the same for Darnell. You're exactly right. Darnell was a very good offensive player as a junior, but he's learned how to play both sides of the game, which gets him involved in all the game, not just the offensive parts, which makes him a good player. And that's exactly what's happening with Bush.
And last year when Evan was here and on the taxi squad and playing some and not playing some, what do you think he learned by being here as opposed to playing all the games 20 minutes in the minor?
You learn from watching. You learn from every meeting that you're in. It's we might be doing a meeting when we're either saying we've done this really well, or we need to clean up this area, and he has nothing to do with what happened on the ice, but he's sitting there as a young player in those meetings, getting all that education every day, over and over again, and preparing. The other part of it is you sit and you watch a guy like Darnell Nurse, how he prepares, how he trains, how he practices. Those are valuable lessons that people don't think about, but they stay with young players as they move up and get to be not young players and become regular players.
So the hard part, I guess, for a young player is to keep the frustration level down if he's used to playing a lot, as Evan would have played before last year.
Well, if you asked Evan, and we asked him at points last year, do you want to go down and play? He said, no, I'm doing fine right here. So there's part of it that some guys maybe would like to just go down and free will and do it. He thought this was part of the education that he needed, and I think we're seeing the benefits of it now.
And one last thing, you've played a long time. Defensemen, they always say they take longer.
Yeah.
Is that so?
On certain cases, you still got individuals that jump in or can, but defense is you learn from experiences. There's experiences just you go through. It could be timing of a game, situation in a game, role that they're put into. There's so many things that come at you, and I always look at it, it's like a goaltender, it's hard for a young goaltender to come in because you've got to look away, and every mistake they make is accentuated. Well, the next in line is the D. Every mistake you make is accentuated because it's got a chance to go in the back of your net. Forwards, there's a lot of guys that get away with a lot of stuff that doesn't get back to the net, right? So there's more pressure on defensemen, and they have to be more reliable there, and hence you have less younger players playing that position.
Dave, just here to your left, does the 5-0 record make a difference on the schedule in the sense that if you weren't as successful, you'd want to be playing right away, or do you like this break that you have time to work on a couple of the things that you want to work on and trying to continue to be undefeated?
You're going to, as a coach, you're going to spin that whatever way you want to spin it, where your players get the best. I thought we were tired a little bit in Vegas. We had 3 and 4 with travel, and we looked a little tired, so the rest, I think, has done us good. That being said, we haven't played for a few days. I'm anxious to see how we come out and play tomorrow. We had good practice today. Hopefully that bodes well for tomorrow, but we'll see.
Just further to that, when you're 5-0, is it, in your experience, easier to coach to get your message across because everybody's listening, or do you have to almost go a little harder because you don't want people getting complacent?
No, it's early. Like we've talked about where we're at. We've talked a lot about areas of our game that have to continue to improve. There's some things that we like what we've done, but we had a good meeting this morning about the reality of where we're at, and we like our record 5-0. You like that, but there's parts of our game that can certainly improve, and that's our focus right now. Is less about the record.
That CC and Keith pairing, like second pairing, is a big part of a team, and both guys have come in from different organizations. New pairing, new city. Mm-hmm. Are you getting what you want from them, or is there what's the ultimate?
Yeah, they've been solid. I think there's still some growth in their game, both of them, but they've come a long way. They're getting a lot more comfortable. They understand. How they're going to play. They understand the role, and they're being put in, and understand how we're going to play. So they've both been real good veteran guys. They've come in and really trying to grab what we're trying to do, and they've done a pretty good job at it. I think there's still more upside in them, but they've settled in pretty well.
And just lastly, Tyson Barrie got off to a bit of a slow start points-wise last year. I think he had 1 or 2 in the first 8 games, and then he led the league by the end of it. Mm. Similarities between last year and this year, or is it a bit different from what's going on with him right now?
I think last year was. I mean, we had no exhibition games. You got a guy jumping in and to a new organization trying to just get acclimated. So probably different than last year. I mean, this year he's got a few points in the power play, but all in all, I mean, I think he's played all right. There's some defending stuff that we need to clean up a little bit, but it's last year he was trying to find his way. This year understands what we're trying to do, and it's just about getting up and going.
Dave, you just did a lot of really good things during a 45-minute. What does that say about where this team is at this point in the season?
Well, we think. I've always believed 45 minutes, if you go at a strong pace and get a few things, we have a couple focal points every day, but we need to get some things done. And today was one of those days, just like we're saying, we've had a little bit of break. There's a couple issues that we looked at in video this morning, and you go out and try to put them in your game. But our guys are pretty focused. You go out for 35, 40 minutes, and at a high tempo, you can get a good workout. Because players nowadays, they're always out. They do a workout before, they're out there early, their practice ends at 45 minutes. You're still seeing guys out there messing around, doing stuff, half an hour later. So it's, there's, these guys, this is a full-time gig. They're doing whatever they can to make themselves better. And as a team, we feel like we've got 35, 40 minutes to really dial in. And I like the way our guys practice. I mean, our guys are, I think it's a real credit to the leadership group, because you watch those guys out there, they're the hardest working guys, and that drags everybody else along.
How much does that efficiency and execution now help later in the season when you're game 64, you're on a 5-game road trip, those sorts of things?
Well, you manage it as you go along, and that's why little breaks like this, you gotta take advantage of the time to get a few things done, because there's going to be stretches in here where that 40-minute practice is going to go down to 20 just to loosen up, So you have to manage your schedule. That's one of the biggest things an NHL coach has to do, is manage your schedule, manage your practice time, and make sure your team is prepared for games. So it's a delicate balance all the way along, but the more efficient you can get it, the better off you are.
Are you a micro, macro scheduling kind of guy?
Yeah, I watch it pretty close. And it goes more than just practice, and there's sleep, there's nutrition, it's all the above these days.
Thanks.
Dave, just to go back to that Keith-CC pairing, you've started them a lot of shifts in the defensive zone. Can you explain why you've done that and what you've thought of the way they've conducted themselves in that manner?
Because they're a solid pair. They understand what we're doing. They read situations well, and some of it could be matchup stuff, but they've dug into the D zone part of it and done a pretty good job.
How tough is that for, that's a role where they're likely, or not likely, but more likely to be scored on than if they started in the offensive zone. How tough is that for two guys to constantly have to, take on a role like that?
It's not tough at all. It's their job. I mean, hey, everybody'd like to start in the offensive zone too, but we do what we have to do to win.
One last thing. You've had Bouchard with Nurse, but you've had Barry with Nurse. Is this going to be an ongoing thing, Barry or Bouchard with Nurse?
Yeah, some of it goes in some matchup stuff, what we're looking for, minutes played. There's a lot of factors that go into it.
So how much is this is Bouchard's really played well and Barry hasn't played as well defensively as you would like?
Well, that's a factor in it.
Okay, thank you.